Okay, hey guys, I'm back here with another video, and here we'll be inking this drawing in. I drew this like a month ago or two, and I wasn't really planning on inking it in, but here it's like, it's not really a comic book style of rendering with pencil, because you see with most comic book pencils, there's more lines in the rendering. Here it's more like it's like regular shading. I don't really know how to describe it, but you see it. And I'm going to attempt to ink this in with a brush. So I'll usually start it with the face. I usually like to start with the more complicated features, like faces. Leave all the more mechanical stuff to the end. Alright, and here I'm using the Ultradraw ink and the Winsor & Newton Series 7 brush. Let me see if this shows up in the camera. Yeah. This is one of my favorite brushes. It's a natural hair brush, so it's more predictable, I feel, with the movements. So yeah, let's get started. Oh yeah, let me show the brand of the ink. Here it is. Ultradraw. The Kohinoor, or whatever it's called. It's a good brand. One of my favorites, because the ink, it's waterproof, so when I paint over it, it doesn't just come off the paper. So that's good. Let me close up some more, because I want to make sure the lines appear. Alright, that's good. Alright, so sometimes with the brush, it is more difficult to, do finer lines, of course, but I feel like if you lower the amount of ink on the brush, and you make sure that, because with natural hair bristles, I feel like it's a bit easier to do finer lines. Just because of the fact that I think that the natural hairs they're just more predictable when it comes to inking. And so let's try to get these really fine lines. Yeah, no, that was going to be trouble, but close enough. When you're inking on a really small piece of paper or a small drawing, it's not as easy as when you're drawing with ink on a bigger piece of paper. Since here it's like with a brush like this, I should have gotten a smaller one for inking really finer details. But I don't like switching the brush all the time. I kind of like to do the whole piece in one brush. Unless, of course, I'm filling in a lot of black lines. A lot of black spots. When you're drawing or working on anything in general, it's always nice to get into the state where it's like everything kind of flows. So that's why I try to limit the amount of tools I use. It makes it easier to focus. You don't have to keep switching tools and stuff. You can just be in a state where you just draw. So that's really what you want to do. Of course, unless it's necessary to use different types of tools. But here I'm not necessarily, yeah, I'm inking, but sometimes there's a difference between drawing with ink and inking, right? Because inking is more of like translating the pencils underneath. Because every medium is kind of its own language, right? Because of the capabilities of the tools that are being used. And so, say when you draw something in pencil, the rendering is always going to be different than that of ink. And so, if you're going to use inks over it, it's going to change the image a bit. So that's why sometimes inks can make a drawing look more stiffer, because the lines are always more rigid compared to pencil. So you have to try to conserve that fluidity of the pencil lines with ink. That's something I always try to work on because it's very difficult. And sometimes I feel like I'm not too good at that yet. But that's why it's important to draw with speed. Because when you think about it, when you draw with pencil, it's always faster, right? So you got to kind of maintain those, you got to maintain that kind of line quality with inks also. You got to make sure that you get some kind of speed into it to give those lines energy. So usually when you get more into a flow, you feel like you're beginning to emulate those kind of lines. You begin to feel that when you're more concentrated and more into a flow and you're not fighting your tools. Sometimes when I draw something from a couple of months ago and I ink it, I kind of question the decisions I did when I was drawing it. Like sometimes, like I feel like this hair is not drawn that well. Should have drew it differently. Alright, let's get these shadows. Sometimes really big shadows can get scary. On another video before this that I was attempting to ink on, I really ruined the drawing that I was inking in. So yeah, this is like the second attempt of making another inking video. That came out kind of decent. Remember, when you have a plane on top of another plane, it's kind of good to make sure that its outline is a bit thicker, so it feels like it's more solid. So let's say we have this hair here. Let's give it more solidity. So you see how like two lines intersect, like in this area? You make them thicker, and it gives it this appearance that something's behind it. See that? Add some more shade in here. I really like this jacket. Alright. my opinion, sometimes I really like the pencil drawing more, but inking is just so much fun. Like using ink in general is a really fun thing. So sometimes I don't hesitate to go over the pencil, because sometimes it's okay if you ruin a drawing, because you could always draw it again. Of course, that takes time. But sometimes fun things are risky. So yeah, with brushes, shadows are just way easier to do. Like bigger shadows are just easier to fill in real quick, and give them character too. Like make them, see how like you could kind of get more pointier shapes. Because if I'm using a pen, it's gonna take a while. All right, let's get an outline on that. See, you give it an outline and it distinguishes it from the background, which is the hair in this case. Let's give the hair some dry brush. Alright, I'm not too happy with the hair, but you could always fix it in the end, especially with hair, because hair you could always use some white lines when you're finished drawing it, and then just make it look wispier or whatever you want to call it. And usually when I ink stuff, it's because I'm going to color it too. I like to color stuff in. Or I could just leave it in black and white, but I'll go in also with the black and white color pencil. Black and white color pencil. And I'll just add some more tones and stuff just to improve the drawing a bit more. See how like I could kind of go in with dry brush here and then just fill in these spots. Not the whole thing is dry brush, but some of the line is. I like that. It gives it like it gives texture to it, and it makes it look like, especially if you're drawing clothes, makes it look like the clothes are lifting, you know, they've been worn for a while. Like the reason, I'll say it again, I use brushes because I feel like as a tool they give more character to the drawings. Like every line you do with a brush, it's always different. Always. And so when you draw, you want the lines to, you know, it's boring when they're always solid and predictable. With the brushes, you get more of a natural feel. And that's always good. Well, most of the time. Sometimes, unless you're not going to feel that way once you make a mistake. That's like really detrimental mistakes, and then you won't feel that way no more. But still, that's why you always got to practice with brushes. It'll improve everything else. Like once you start drawing with pens after you use brushes for a while, you're going to get kind of annoyed because pens take longer when you're using them. But you're going to realize that your line quality is going to improve because you're going to train your hand to be more loose and lighter. And so therefore, when you use a brush, you're going to be, when you use a pen, it's going to feel more fluid. So that's good. Alright, I'm kind of just winging this part here. The torso is always a difficult part, but it's also a part you could be more loose with, because with the clothing and the anatomy, you could just make up more of it. It's like it's not always concrete 100%, but with faces is the thing that you have to be really concrete with. But always when you're drawing clothing, folds always go in, like where the joints are, they always go around it, right? Like say you see here, the folds always go into the joint, always around it. See here, just like that. Let's get more shadows in there. Let me get some more ink off the brush. Like, see, I usually use the paper towel or napkin on the brush only when I want to get dry brush. But usually I just use a piece of paper to wipe off the excess ink, because I don't like to dip my brush in a lot. So when you don't wipe off all the excess ink and you stay loose while you're drawing with a brush, the ink just stays up here in the well, kind of. It's like using a nib if you think about it, you know, like the crow quill nibs. Oof, that looks like a mistake. All right. Get some dry brush in here. Looks a bit complete. Once you zoom out, it begins to blend in, right? You see how, let me do something here about shadows. Let me show you something. So let's say here you got an arm. That's the shoulder. Whoops. So you got the folds in the clothing here, right? And the light source is up here. And so you're going to have this as the brightest area, let's say that, right? And so the shadows are going to be there. So the part where the light and the shadows begin, that's going to be the darkest part, right? So let's say here, right, that's going to be the darkest part. The darkest part. And then this part, the shadows here are going to be a little bit brighter than the initial part where the shadows and the light meets. It gives this more realistic tone, and it's always nicer to see. Like you see it here. Like the light kind of touches here, right? And then this is dark. Yeah, I don't know. I think I did it wrong here. Yeah, you see how once you add that shadow around it, makes it look more right. Here also it kind of does that. You see? Then you could do that here also. See? Yeah. Maybe I should teach more often. I correct my own mistakes. That's what I say, isn't it? You learn something twice if you're teaching it. Yeah, I feel like when I teach stuff, I'm more aware of the mistakes I make. All right, let's ink the rest of this part here. Go for more solid shadows when objects are underneath other objects. See, it makes it more distinguishable. So you see the white color here, the bottom has to be, because if I added more brightness to it, you'll confuse it with that. Drawing is all about clearness, so make sure it's clear and readable. Sometimes that trumps realism, because drawing is more about design, I feel, sometimes, than how realistic something can look. A good design sometimes trumps, most of the time it trumps realism, in my opinion. But what do I know? A lot of people can differ on that. Actually, I don't think so. Yeah, good design always trumps realism. Because if you have a good design, whatever the message you're trying to convey will always be clear. And so therefore, whoever is looking at your picture will have a better understanding of it than if you would have went for realism. Unless the goal was to have something realistic, right? All right, time to go for more darker shadows. It's always difficult to draw leather. It's like a very unique texture, unique pattern also. So it's sometimes, it also depends on the leather. Some leather is more reflective. Some leather is more matte, or what's it called? It's just non-shiny, matte texture, I think it's called. See, I'm trying to make sure that's more visible here. The part where the jackets meet. I mean, the two sides of it. And the part where the buttons are. So I'm adding a thicker line here. See that? Makes it stand out a bit more. Let's add a cast shadow here. So, because the breast will be casting a shadow. And so, you always got to remember to add the shadows to make things more clear. So I guess, yeah, that's like the part about realism that matters, is the lighting, right? Because lighting gives stuff shape. I mean, the reason we see light is probably because we see the shapes of things, right? So if the lighting is correct, it gives things shape and volume and all that. So make sure the lighting is right. Let me try to get some excess ink off the brush and go in for a more dry brush feel. All right. When you're drawing something foreshortened, sometimes it's good to leave it with less rendering in it. Sometimes the rendering can get it confusing. Make sure the rendering is also, what's it called? Accurate, because it could throw off the foreshortening or the perspective. Sometimes I'll see rendering that isn't done too well. It doesn't abide by the perspective that it's in. You got to make sure that the rendering is good. I mean, it goes in the direction of whatever the perspective of the object is. So let's say we have this cube right here, right? And you see how that shadow kind of goes that way. You're not going to render it in like this. That's not as good, right? If you do this, right, and render it in the direction of the perspective. So let's say that's the perspective point. You see how everything kind of abides by that perspective? It gives it a nicer feel, and it feels more it just feels less distracting on the eyes. Let's get a forearm muscle in here. Forearm muscles are fun to draw because they always go in like this direction. That's, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. They're just fun. And you don't always have to be super accurate, I feel, with forearms, because not most people know how, most people don't know how forearms look like. So it's one of the easiest parts to draw because they're less distracting. Once you understand that like all the muscles just go that way and they overlap each other, they're easy to draw. Like I remember when I was studying anatomy, and then I would go look at some comic book artist and I look at their anatomy. I'm like, you just made this up, man. But then that's when I realized it's not about being accurate, you know? Like when you're first starting off in drawing and everything, you want to be all academic in your art and you want to make sure everything is 100% like accurate and scientific or whatever, right? And then you just realize it just makes stuff boring. Sometimes you don't need to draw stuff accurately. You just need to know what it is, right? You need to understand its shapes and all that, and then you just make up what you want, but make sure you're not diverging too far off of what the essence of the object is. So if I'm drawing a helmet, right, and then I make it look like nothing like a helmet, right? It's just not gonna, like, see, that kind of looks like a helmet. It's got like the hole for the eyes and stuff, but it's not like an ordinary helmet. Hope you understand what I'm saying. None of this is like planned or written out before I record. I just go along with what I'm thinking. So hope you enjoy. I hope you learned something. Also, wish I could put on music, but of course YouTube is gonna copyright that. Like while I draw, I wish I could put on music, but you know, royalty-free beats don't cut it. They honestly get more they're more distracting than they are fun to listen to. Some of this copyright-free music. Like it's hard to get into the zone while drawing if you're listening to something you don't like. All right. Oh yeah, and back to the thing about like the essence or the form of an object, right? I forgot which Greek philosopher said this, but I think it was Plato. It was his theory of forms or something. I'm probably gonna butcher the idea, but it's like, it's like a metaphysical thing, right? So it doesn't have to do with our world, but he said like in a perfect world before this one. So let's say you have the perfect knife, and in this world there's many different kind of knives, but all knives have something in similar. This essence of a knife, what is it, right? And so he says in this world of forms there exists this perfect knife. And so what is a perfect knife? I honestly don't know, but all knives have something similar to this perfect knife, and that's how we recognize it as a knife. I think I completely destroyed that idea and I did not explain it right, but I think you get what I mean. Everything that is the same, or some stuff that's in a group, they all have like similar characteristics, and if you diverge too far when you're drawing them, or you make it look similar to something else a little bit, it's going to throw the viewer off and they're not going to know what you're doing. So you have to stay a little bit closer to the original form of the object if you want to depict it, right? If you want it to be seen as what you want it to be seen as, you got to make sure that it's close to that form. All right. This was a pretty long video. I mean, I usually don't record for this long for one video on YouTube. Actually, no, that's a lie. All my other videos are pretty long too. But yeah, I should finish the jacket and then got 2 minutes left. Ah, crap. See, now that's a mistake. See, that's the thing. When you work in a hurry, it just destroys everything. So never procrastinate. Always do stuff on time so you're never in a hurry. See, that I messed up that shadow. Now it looks like, yeah, I gotta increase the height of all the other shadows now. Alright, close enough. You know what? Just black it out. I think that's good. Alright. Let's get this part here finished. Perfect. Let's get some dry brush on this helmet. Let me make sure those fingers are visible, so I'm going to darken whatever's behind them. Make sure I preserve some of that mechanical feel of the helmet. I want it to look like there's parts in it and stuff. crap, I think the camera was zooming into my hand. Sometimes the focus is just whack. Let's render the face a little bit more. So I'm gonna add some, like the cheekbone shadow. Alright, that's good. Let's add some eyeshadow. Add some shadow up here. See, the dry brush, it's really fun. Let's add some more shadow there. More shadow here. Like when you put shadow over shadow, it increases the shadow. So it's like kind of like cross hatching. The more you add, the more shadowy it becomes. You got to make sure you do it right. It's like those old school comic book screen tones where they used to use yeah, it's gonna sound complicated, I don't know how to describe it, but they used to have the screen tone. You put it all over your picture, and if you want to show one pattern, you use a certain kind of liquid, and then if you want to use another overlapping pattern to increase the shadow, you use another brush. And then you'll know what I'm talking about if you like look at old school search up old school manga screen tone. I think it'll show up. Let's add some more dry brush here. I feel like it makes the head stand out more, and it makes the hair hover over a bit. So I think it's yeah, that's good. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. You know, like, subscribe, or whatever, or, you know, leave a comment of what you want to see next, all of that. Hope you have a good day, good night, or whatever time it is you're at. Later, guys.